Hi, you guys. So I am sharing with you this reentry predictor toolkit. This was created by one of the principals in Grace to really help us as educators um, like reflect on how our students have done and reflect on what gaps there are, how they did during the time that we were at stay at home from March to the end of the year, and taking all that information and starting to really reflect on, are there big gaps that we need to address, and how do we take that information and plan for the fall, plan for reentry. The tool was created so that you could really follow along, tool 1, tool 2, and so on. However, we're not going to be using it that way here at St. Bernard. The tool 1, had we done tool 1 the way that it was designed, you guys would have spent some time in the spring really kind of getting into the nitty gritty on specifically what students were struggling, how many students were engaged in your lessons, what you were able to cover, what big things you were not able to cover. And that would help drive a plan for this fall. We didn't do that part. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to move into tool 2. So you have a link to this video, but you also have a link to the tool predictor kit. And so if you scroll through, this kind of talks a little bit about the reason for the tool, which is what I just told you, how to use the toolkit. Again, we're not using it this way. So we're not going to do the end of the year summary under number 1, but we are going to use numbers 2 and 3, but not 4 and 5. 2 and 3 are going to be the basis for a conversation that you're going to have together as a unit. And if you want to divide up even more than that to specific classrooms and where it makes sense to have these conversations, you guys are welcome to do that. So tool 2 starts with the beginning of the year academic planning. This is going to be completed by the teacher or the teams like I just described. And theoretically, it should be done 2 weeks before school, but that's not where we're at. So you are just going to use these tools as guiding questions for conversation so that you can at least be cognizant of some areas that need to have a little extra time spent on them, or students who need a little extra support as well. Okay, so we are going to get down to tool 2, which is right here, and it is on page 5 of the packet. So starting with tool 2, you're going to talk about just follow along with it, and you don't even have to fill this out. I just want you to have a conversation, whole class academics. What are some essential topics that need to be reviewed based on how far you were able to get in math, or how far you were able to get in phonics, let's say. And this is really so that the classroom teacher who, like if we're talking about 3rd and 4th grade, so the 4th grade teacher knows, okay, I have a group of kids coming in who were able to get to this point in math, but weren't able to get very far in this other area. Coming up with, just discussing a plan to address anticipated lack of prerequisite skills. Maybe it's something as simple as measurement. And if measurement is the case, then maybe that's not something you want to spend 2 weeks on reviewing before you even get into anything. Maybe that's just something that you guys know as a group of teachers that you're going to have to spend a little extra time on measurement. And maybe that makes sense to kind of fold that into something else as it comes down the pike along the way. So you can have some of those areas that need to be addressed in more than one subject, and it can be more than one essential topic that needs to be addressed as well. Individual academics. I think this is something that, so once you get beyond like the whole group, what was taught, what the percentage was of students who were engaged in that topic, just in general, what topics are going to need to be revisited. Then you can just start discussing individual students. I know we have a lot of data already on students who are struggling or students who have intervention and things like that. We do a really good job with that kind of data here. That being said, if there was a student who, I'm going to use Sammy, for example. If there's a student like Sammy who was off the grid for a large majority of the learning from home time, and we know that he's going to struggle no matter what, because he would struggle anyway, but now he has this additional gap. Those are some students that he's a good example of a student that you might want to write down here who has some essential areas that need to be covered. I would not spend time putting students on this list who are our regulars. We already know that, and so in that case, maybe Sammy wasn't a good example, but we already know Sammy struggles with things. We already know that Theo is going to struggle with math and with staying focused. So we already know these things. Then there's no point in hashing that out here, because we would be here until Christmas writing all that down. I think these are some students who maybe didn't, who we thought maybe would do well during the stay-at-home time, but didn't do well, or who we know had some personal, like we know their family got COVID, or we know that dad passed away. Those are some students that you might want to mention here that we can give a little extra TLC to, pay a little extra attention to in particular areas. And that kind of leads into the next one, which is the emotional family concerns. So if we did have a student who had a parent pass away, or family lost their jobs and now they're homeless, let's say, or they're still depending on food from the food bank in order to make sure that they have enough food and things. That's where you're going to want to put that information down here under emotional and family concerns. Initially, I think we should stay focused on those students who are with us face to face. I would not be surprised though if you have a student who, like Samantha, let's say, who was here in person. Samantha had a surgery and then we went home to stay at home. She's going to be behind if she was going into 4th grade, but she's going to repeat 3rd grade. But there's some information there that the virtual teacher is going to want to know about Samantha. So I wouldn't take time to put our virtual kids here, but don't be surprised if, Samantha's teacher maybe contacts us to ask us, hey, where did you guys leave off with her? What's her story? What can you tell me that's going to help me out? Please feel free to share that kind of information, just so that, that the virtual teacher can get going right away. The other thing is that we really want to make sure that there is some kind of communication between that virtual teacher and you. That way, if and when your student comes back into the building, that you can do so. You guys are not going to be in sync 100%. And that's not even the goal, to be in sync. But what the goal is to have good communication with that virtual teacher, so that you're at least aware of where each other is. And so that when the student does come back, if they do come back, that transition becomes a little bit easier, and vice versa too. So if a parent decides that they want to send that student into the virtual academy, they can do that kind of seamlessly too. So, I feel bad asking for you guys, but because it's an added layer of communication that's necessary. So at any rate, this is the tool. This is the academic predictor kit. I just want you to look at number 2 and number 3. Again, you do not have to write anything down here. You do not need to share it with me. This is simply for conversation, and I'm hoping that by engaging in an hour or two of conversation with one another about these topics, that it might just help you guys feel a little bit more settled about how you're going to address some of those gaps that we might have for individuals or even like whole groups of students. Okay. And then of course, if you guys have questions, please feel free to ask me. I would be happy to answer them to the best of my ability. But really, truly, we're all going to muddle through this together, and we're going to figure it out. And, but like I said, I'm here. I'm happy to help you guys out. Okay. So enjoy your time. We're having this conversation, and let me know if you need anything from me. God bless.